So, you've got a new college drama, a promising star. Sounds like a recipe for success, right? Well, not this time. The film K-Ramp was met with, let's just say, widespread disappointment. So, what went so wrong? We're going to break down the critical reception of a movie that, well, just couldn't seem to find its footing.
And really, you don't have to look very far to get the vibe here. GossipHub summed it up with a headline that is just perfect. No ramp, all cramp. I mean, it's catchy, it's pretty brutal, and it really sets the stage for what critics called a painful experience.
Yep, a 2 out of 5. That's not just a bad score, it's a statement. A rating this low tells you pretty much everything you need to know, that the film fell short on almost every single level. So let's get into the why. All right, first section, a cinematic letdown. Despite having some promise right out of the gate, the consensus was crystal clear. K-Ramp was just a huge disappointment for audiences and, honestly, a total miss for the filmmakers. And look, it wasn't just one thing that went wrong. The whole movie was just weighed down by a whole mess of problems. We're talking a tired, predictable formula, really weak writing, and direction that just didn't bring any energy or originality to the table. Okay, so with all that negativity, you gotta wonder, was there anything good about it? And you know what? According to the review, there was. There was one tiny bright spot in an otherwise pretty dim movie. And that bright spot, it came down to one single, sincere performance. It's kind of proof that even in a movie that's totally falling apart, sometimes one person's effort can really shine through. The review made a point to praise the lead actor, Kiran Abbavaram. They said he wasn't just, reading his lines. He was using his whole body, his whole presence to get the emotion across. He was really giving it his all, even when the script he was working with was, well, not great. But here's the thing, right? One person's hard work can only go so far. In the end, his genuine effort was just completely overshadowed by that weak script and shaky direction. It's the classic case of a good performance trapped in a bad movie. Okay, so what about the rest of the actors? Let's take a look at the supporting cast. Did they fare any better? The short answer, nope. They definitely did not get the same kind of praise. So let's put them side by side. On one hand, you have Kiran's performance. It's getting praised for its intensity. You can see the hard work. But on the other hand, you have the female lead, Yukti Thureja. And while she was charming, her debut was called adequate at best, in a role that honestly gave her almost nothing to do. And it wasn't just the newer actors who were struggling here. The film totally fumbled its use of veteran talent, too. I'm talking specifically about the role they gave to the seasoned actor Naresh, which was seen as just a huge misstep. I mean, the problems were so obvious. The character just didn't fit his vibe or his usual acting style. The comedy bits felt super forced, and in the end, the role added zero value to the story. Instead of making the movie better, his scenes were just a distraction that pulled you away from the main plot. What a complete waste of a great actor. All right, let's talk about the direction and the storytelling, because this is where we really get to the heart of why this movie fell apart. The problems weren't just what you see on screen. They started way before that, behind the camera. So the director, Jains Nani, was pointed to as a key reason for the film's failure. The critique basically says he couldn't pull together a story that flowed or that actually engaged the audience. What we got instead was a movie that felt totally unoriginal and had zero emotional depth. And let's get specific, right? That really cool Kerala college setting? Totally wasted. It was just wallpaper. The humor? Repetitive and predictable. The plot was basically a paint-by-numbers campus drama that we've all seen a million times. And when you don't have that emotional core, the audience just can't connect. They can't get invested. So on top of the story and the acting, a movie can also just fail on a technical level. And according to the reviews, K-Ramp definitely had its fair share of technical missteps. It was like a domino effect of technical problems. The screenplay had no rhythm, which led to choppy, uneven editing. The music was completely forgettable. It didn't elevate a single scene. And they even managed to waste a comedy genius like Vanilla Kishore by giving him terribly written jokes. It felt like every single technical part of this movie just failed. So we've looked at the acting, the directing, the technical stuff. What's the final verdict on K-Ramp? Well, the main takeaway is pretty simple. Even with one actor pouring his absolute heart and soul into the role, the movie as a whole is just forgettable. It's a huge reminder that filmmaking is a team sport. One great player can't win the whole game by themselves.
And that brings us to the review's final piece of advice, the practical takeaway. It's pretty straightforward. If you're a diehard fan of the lead actor, maybe you'll find something to like here. But for pretty much everyone else, the verdict is, yeah, you can skip this one.
And that leaves us with one final thought. You know, the whole story of Care Amp brings up a really interesting question for anyone who loves movies. We've all seen this happen, right? A brilliant actor gives an amazing performance in a film that's kind of meh. So it really makes you wonder, can one single great performance ever truly save a flawed film? Something to think about.